Hello and a very warm welcome to Rajya Sabha Television. You're watching The Big Picture with me, Frank Rausan Pereira. Well, Vice President M Venkaiah Naidu urged youngsters on Saturday to take inspiration from the life of Subhas Chandra Bose and work for eradicating ills such as poverty, illiteracy, social and gender discrimination and corruption from the society. Noting that 65% of India's population is below 35 years of age, the Vice President said youngsters should lead from the front in building a new India. A happy and prosperous India where every citizen gets equal opportunities and where there is no discrimination of any kind. Parakram or courage was the most defining feature of Netaji's persona, the Vice President said, and lauded the government's decision to celebrate Bose's birthday as Parakram Divas. Referring to the pivotal role played by Bose and several freedom fighters, social reformers, including unsung heroes from different regions, he said many people were not aware of their greatness as their contributions were not properly projected in the history books. In this edition of The Big Picture, we will look back at the life and contributions of Netaji Sushash Chandra Bose. Joining me on the program today are Rajiv Chandrasekhar, MP, Rajya Sabha and member high-level panel for commemoration of Subhas Chandra Bose's 125th birth anniversary. Dr. Ravi Kasliwal, Chairman, Heart Institute Medanta and member high-level panel for commemoration of Subhas Chandra Bose's 125th birth anniversary, and Shakti Sinha, Director, Delhi School of Public Policy. Thank you to all my guests for joining me on this edition of The Big Picture. So Rajiv Chandrasekhar, let me begin the program with you first. Let's first talk about the high-level panel that has been put in place for the commemoration of Subhas Chandra Bose's 125th birth anniversary, and also why we have decided to celebrate today as Parakram Divas and this day going forward as Parakram Divas.
Well, so to start with, I think the fact that we are honoring Netaji's 125th birth anniversary is just a great thing, and to be part of a committee that is tasked with planning that and executing that is a great honor and a privilege, especially for somebody like me who has been a great devoted fan, if I could use the phrase, of Netaji's life and service to the nation. I think, look, like the Honorable Vice President said, there are many real people, many real contributions to the cause of our freedom struggle that have, in a sense, been written out or written down of the history books for many years post-independence. And Netaji's contribution and Netaji's role post-1938 in really defining a very alternate, different way to getting rid of the colonial powers was something that got airbrushed out of history for various reasons, and I won't get into that at this point. And that the nation today is recognizing this man who was not just a brilliant man, was not just a devoted follower of Swami Vivekananda and Ramakrishna Paramhansa, but was a nationalist, a patriot, and a man of such incredible courage to do what he did at the time that he did what he did is a story in itself and is unique in the annals of our freedom struggle and the unique in the annals of Indian history. And so to bring the awareness of that to the youth of India, that we had real heroes such as Netaji who strode the earth and who were amongst what we call Indian heroes, is something that I think is a good thing. And Parakram Divas, I think, will be celebrated every year to celebrate the man and his life and his sacrifice.
Absolutely. Since we are here then, Dr. Ravi Kasliwal, let's also talk about, the values and how Netaji's values are important even today in 2021.
Yeah, thank you. First of all, I'm honored to be here, actually. My father was a doctor in the Indian National Army, the Azad Hind Fauj. And exactly what was said, that he, in his close contact with Netaji Sushash Chandra Bose, got to know that this person wanted to show Parakram and a change in the country. For 2 months in Singapore, my father writes in his book, my late father, said that, he used to call me early in the morning. He used to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. Netaji used to get up so early in the morning. And he always did yoga, and then he would ask him to come and talk about various things. He used my father as almost like a sounding board. And what my father recounts in his book was clearly a person who had a mission to accomplish. And that mission was to free India from colonial powers. He was very specific about his goal. And my father recalls that on the day in Singapore, when he gave this Nara, Chalo Delhi, and the Nara, Jai Hind, which all our security staff use so commonly, my father had the good fortune, and I have the good fortune today to recount it to you, that he was actually on the stage and he actually heard it. And those were transforming times in my father's life also, because he was a doctor and his task was to actually set up the combined general hospitals. Because whatever you may say, in a war, injury will take place. And he had this tremendous task because people get injured, firing used to take place, to set it up quickly and to actually start mending the people. So my father's also recalled that he had a great empathy for those who were injured. He said, Rajmal, jo karna hai aapko, jo aapke haath mein hai, ye apne bande hain. These are our people, and we have to protect them from the vagaries of nature and from the vagaries of injury. So in this morning meetings which he had for 2 months, he said that Netaji was a person of, and of course, he had a photograph of Vivekananda right at his bedside. So he was imbued with that power and that knowledge, which was just alluded to. He was a man totally driven, and he had a mission. And whoever he employed or talked to, he talked of only one thing. When can we, how can we? And he said that this is not going to be so easily gotten. It'll have to be hard fought. So all of you should be ready to give a sacrifice for the motherland. But my father did say that he was always empathetic and he would listen to everyone and then go forward.
Right. All right. So, Mr. Sinha, let me bring you in now. And since we are here, let's talk about the great contributions of the great man, Netaji Sushash Chandra Bose.
Frank, the picture we get of the Indian freedom struggle is very unique. The reality is that the freedom struggle had many strands running in parallel. One was the larger strand of non-violence, which is there, of course, we all know about it. But there were many local variants going along, and also at a national level. Many people felt that non-violence had its uses, but a time had come when India should pick up, if required, the gun, because that was the only way to put pressure on the British. And Netaji demonstrated that. Netaji demonstrated that if the time comes, one should not only go with the stream. After all, the dead fish flow with the stream, the strong fish go against the stream. So basically, he's telling us, the message we get from Netaji is, if you believe that something is worth doing, explore all the options and choose those options, explore those options also, where the other side can be put off. If you're going to just follow what is expected of you, then maybe the other side won't take you seriously. And if you look at the political developments of the 39-41 period, the British decided to give the Muslim League a veto over India's independence. In that case, to agree to what the British did all the while means that you have no cards in your hand. And Netaji's ability to sense that opportunity, to sense that there was a need to militarily put pressure on the British so that they realized that to govern India, they needed the support of far more than was possible. And that would put the British on the defensive. So I guess the strongest message I get from Netaji, already mentioned, courage was one of them. Empathy was the other one. And the strength of character that, yes, even though a lot of people are opposed to me, I will go ahead and do this because sacrifice and suffering is required to liberate the motherland. So when that comes in, you give up your personal ego. You are the Congress president. You have difficulties running the party. I will leave that post. The post is not important to me. The cause is important to me. So I think the youth of India have a lot to learn from Netaji. One may not agree with him ideologically and everything. That is fine with that. But at least that strength of character that comes across is very, very essential, that the cause is important. Go against the stream if required, but stick on to your job and do not let the other side dictate the terms of your engagement.
Absolutely. All right. So, two aspects that I'd like to take forward with you, Mr. Rajiv Chandrasekhar. One, of course, the relevance of Netaji in 2021. Second, we must commend this government for ensuring that, a forgotten figure, a forgotten hero of this country has been brought back to the spotlight and is being given his due. Is there a political angle to that as well?
Look, Frank, when you say what is the message from Netaji's life and sacrifice to today's youngster, or indeed to any Indian today, like Shakti said, this is a person who gave up every success that he had. He was a young ICS officer. He could have made a career out of that. He would have been one of the rising stars. He was one of the youngest presidents of the Congress. He was twice the president. And then for various reasons, he had to give that up because he did not agree that there had to be a graded, gradual, compromised approach towards getting what he believed was our birthright, which is independence. He did not believe in dominion status. And he was prepared to sacrifice all of that in the cause of national service. And I say this with all responsibility, Frank, that is the message from Netaji's life. That at the end of the day, there is a cause, the nation, the country. And when you say you're committed to the cause of the nation, you have to be prepared to go the extra mile, not just manage a few comfort, and say, I love India in a cricket match. I love India when something else is happening. But when everything else happens, I will take a little pragmatic view of it. Netaji decided to sacrifice opportunism, pragmatism, all of those at the anvil of a desire to have a proud, independent India. And if he had to go through pain, sacrifice, and indeed loss of life, as unfortunately he ended up, he was prepared to do it. And that is an immense story. It is an immense story of service and sacrifice that, legends are made out of. It is only in India, unfortunately, because of the airbrushing of the post-independent history, that Netaji has really not the legend that he should be or must be for our youth. And I hope Parakram Divas triggers a re-evaluation of what really caused independence, what really took us to the 1946 Mumbai mutiny, what really broke the back of the British and caused them to run and forget about all those dominion status dreams that they had. Netaji was a central figure in that, and I hope as we celebrate the Parakram Divas every year, there is a new generation of Indian that will celebrate his life and sacrifice.
Absolutely. And Dr. Ravi, you spoke about how your late father, worked closely with Netaji. So are there any fond memories that he recollected with you? Anything that he shared with you that you would like to share with us today?
Yes, thank you, Frank. I'm really impressed with Rajiv and the gentleman for putting forth what our younger generation should follow. Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, in my understanding with what my father told me, is alive today in the sense of the thought that he came to. And my father fondly remembers one thing, that the character of the person, the persona of that individual was immense. If he walked in, people would just bow down and say, Netaji aa gaye, and they would sit down. It was not a fan following. It was a following of beliefs on which this individual stood. He sacrificed everything, as Rajiv ji said, that, ICS, youngest president, all these things. We have to make our sacrifices even today for making our country what it actually deserves in the world screen. And that's what my father fondly recollects. That is in his 1 hour or some time that he used to spend with him. What did he gain from that? So one day my father asked that, look, you're a warrior, you have a persona, you have such fantastic thoughts about the country, which I believe in. But why did you select me for this 1 hour talk almost every day? I'm only a doctor. I look after your combined general hospitals. He said, Rajmal, we need in this country people like you who not only do their jobs very well, but also are well read and have a strength of character to take this movement forward. So that is what Netaji stood for. That wherever we are, whatever we do, the Parakram Divas, which has been announced, should be a very key thing in our country's being, because it propels youth to go to the next level. It propels youth about honesty, about sacrifices, and about India as a country, and not factionalism. So this is what my father always recounts fondly. And of course, he was very clear that this person was so focused. The word focus is very, very important when we talk of Netaji. He was focused about how, along with his people, and he would take the strengths of everyone and he would just not look at their weaknesses. If this gentleman he was talking to was a doctor, he said that I will talk to you later, but I'm going to talk to you about your strengths that you can actually imbibe in your people, whom you take the daily parades. What is India and how we can go forward? So the strength of character, what I learned from my father, because I'm born in free India, and what he used to talk to us every day at the breakfast table as principal of Savai Man Singh Medical College in Jaipur, was the strength of character and the focus for his country and his motherland. Amazing.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Frank.
Absolutely. Shakti Sinha, I'm going to go back to a point that Rajiv Chandrasekhar was making and take that forward with you. Over the years, why is it that Netaji wasn't given his due? Why was he sidelined, and why is he now in the spotlight?
Frank, I can write a book on that. The point is that we created your foundation myths, let me call it. And a lot of it was, as Rajiv mentioned at the beginning, was airbrushed. A lot of things which you didn't like because they did not belong to the right thinking, the right lineage, political lineage only, etc. Now, in that case, many of the people who appear as odd because they're disturbing the rhythm of what you're trying to present, you just remove them from history, relegate them to the footnotes. Netaji suffered that fate, and he was not the only one. Sardar Patel. Today, people do not understand how the Congress party for 20 years was run by Sardar Patel. Gandhi was the overall leader, but Sardar Patel actually ran the organization. Netaji is a classic case. Netaji just did not fit in the narrative that we wanted to present to the people. An interesting aspect of Netaji is his appeal was so tremendous. When I first went to Tamil Nadu in 1979, I ran into a gentleman called Subhas Chandra Bose. I was very happy to practice my little Bengali. Subhas Chandra Bose was a Thet Tamilian from the heartland of Tamil Nadu. That very strong feeling for Subhas Chandra Bose, Netaji, in the old undivided Tinnevelly district, Tuticorin, etc. Amazing. So these people, if you project them, then you are showing that they were leaders other than the leaders that you want to project. This is a mass leader with appeal running when the Tamil indentured labor of Malaya, then Malaya, is prepared to join up and contribute. Women in Burma, then Burma, are giving up the jewelry to fund the Azad Hind Fauj. You do not want to portray such people whose appeal runs across the country, across languages, across communities, religious communities, etc. And therefore, you sideline them. Yes, they did things like talking to other issues which you didn't like. So you just remove them out. And that is the unfortunate part to me, being able to accept somebody who's not even ideologically on the same side as you, give that person respect. He is the true sign of patriotism. Patriotism does not mean only those that you like. If people who have sacrificed, who've shown courage, who have shown a path for the good of the nation, maybe I don't like his path, but the fact that sincerity of purpose must be recognized. And therefore, if you recognize them, then your own heroes get, in your eyes, diminished, and therefore airbrush all these inconvenient people out and present a very sanitized view of history. Unfortunate, but that is true.
All right, time to get quick closing comments now from all my panelists. One, with the best way forward, and secondly, I have a question for you too, Mr. Chandrasekhar. You know, at some point in time, do you believe that we need to get this alternative viewpoint through as well, maybe rewrite some of our history books so that India's true history comes out?
No, 100%. I think there is absolutely no doubt that for most of our lives as children and lives of our parents or generations, around our generations, we've been fed a narrative that was scripted, written by forces that, obviously didn't want the truth to be known to us. We are a great country. We are a great people. We have had heroes throughout our history who have stood up and done what is right. And unfortunately, instead of giving us stories of all of those people in both contemporary life and in historical life, we have been given history that has been cooked and fed around a few personalities and a few dynasties. And I think it is time that at least, okay, fine, I am old and maybe my life's not the one to be fixing now, but the coming generations of Indians must look back at the real India and the real pantheon of heroes that we've really had, who served, sacrificed at different stages of history. And they must have an opportunity to read about them, learn about their lives without any filters, without any external influence, without this colonial overhang that has so badly distorted the real history of India. I mean, to answer your question in a simple sentence, we need to know the real history of India, and the future generations of Indians need to know the real history of India.
And also, Rajiv Chandrasekhar, age is just a number, so let's leave it at that. and Dr. Ravi, best way forward.
No, I'm very clear that my two colleagues have done a fabulous job. I'm not so widely read as they are. I'm more focused towards cardiology, but I tell you, my father used to speak so highly about this gentleman, who himself was a doyen of medicine and a principal and a professor. But see, one thing that always came out, that he was very unhappy with the way history was being written at that time, and that this person with whom he spent hours, and he could have died along with him, did not come up to the same level as he would have wished it. So here was a person of huge character, huge focus. India truly was his motherland, and that is what Parakram Divas should be all about. Thank you, Frank.
On that note, then, I'll call it a wrap on this edition of The Big Picture. Thank you to all my guests for joining me on the program and putting things into perspective for us. We as citizens and Bharatiyas, let's make it a point and make an effort to learn and understand the true history of India so that we are abreast with what has happened in this great land of ours. With that, it's a wrap. See you again next time.